Well, I'm going to introduce our guest speaker today. Dustin Sitton is the principal of Incite Automation, one of our favorite partners here in our Microsoft ecosystem. Dustin's company helps companies manage their SharePoint and Dynamics environments and Power Automate and now Copilot Studio. So, Dustin, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me, and thank you for saying those kind words. The check's in the mail. For saying such wonderful things. Hi, Dustin Sitton, Principal of Incite Automation. We are talking today about not Copilot, but Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio, for those on the call that don't know, is not the same thing as the Copilot that Microsoft pumps up in the press, right? Copilot in general, the $30 a month version, is one that we often think of in Office, right? That's just connected to the general internet. Copilot Studio, which we're going to be showing off today, allows you to connect your organization's data to Copilot in a secure way. Yeah, it's scary, and work with it. I'm going to be showing off how it works, what you can do with it, telling some stories of how we at Incite Automation have implemented it for some of our clients. But first, I want to set just a very quick lay of the land. And the stuff I'm going to be talking about, just please give me 60 seconds of rope, and then I promise we'll get into the good stuff. I am sharing my screen, and I am not showing Copilot Studio just yet. I'm showing Power Automate, which and I need to show you this just real quick to set the stage for what we're going to be talking about. Power Automate, of course, is another part. The Power Platform, it's the middle tier. It's what we use to explain, to set the business logic behind the scenes of systems. If you're an Office 365 client, you already own Power Automate. And if you're not making use of it, my information's at the end of this call because we'd love to help you do so. But it's a fundamental building block of Copilot Studio, which is why I just want you guys tangentially familiar with it first. And for those who don't know, you can use Power Automate, which has been around for a long time, to listen for things happening in other systems you might have, Microsoft or otherwise, and then cause workflows, automations, transferring data between systems. And you can build your own custom connectors. When I look at the list of products I can connect to using this, and I type in the word sign, Adobe Sign, DocuSign, HelloSign, Signing Hub, all the signature tools are there. Same is true with text messaging, right? And I can build connections to databases, et cetera. So Power Automate is a great way to connect many, many systems together, okay? And that's going to be important for what we're actually here to talk about, which is Copilot Studio. Again, not the Copilot that's $30 a month. Copilot Studio is priced much differently and much more attractively, quite frankly. It's $200 a month, not per user, but per 25,000 messages. What do I mean by 25,000 messages? We're going to find out in a second. As an example, in this test area in Copilot Studio, if I were to type, how does Incite Automation run invoices? Right? I'll scroll up just to make it a little bit bigger for you all. It will go through all of my databases, go through all of my systems, and send me a beautiful list of exactly how we do that because it knows us, it knows our systems because I fed it data about us. That's the sort of thing that we're talking about building today. This product, Copilot Studio, it's again just $200 a month for an organization, can be embedded public facing. It can be embedded in lots of the systems you use. And by the end of this, you're going to see how you can use it to create actions, how you can use it to ingest data from your organization in a secure way. It's the most exciting thing that Microsoft has, and not that many people are talking about it. What's interesting about Copilot Studio, before we really get into it, is it's been around for many, many years. I don't know if you all remember, but like 2018 was supposed to be the year of the chatbot, right? Before all, these generative AIs came out, and Microsoft released Power Virtual Agents around that time, which was a product meant to build chatbots. And believe it or not, Copilot Studio is a relaunched, rebranded version of that old legacy product that nobody bought or cared about. And what's wild is they made a few tweaks to it, started really investing into it. And now this Power Virtual Agents product that had kindly limited utility is now the star player in their AI platform. And as you'll see, it's really has a lot of amazing capabilities. So let's figure out how this works and what you can do with it. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and create a new Copilot. And you can start with a template or you can make a brand new one from scratch. I want to make a version of Copilot to do some things within my organization. And cheekily, you can describe what you'd like it to do and have it pre-build some stuff for you. But I really want to show you what this is capable of. So I'm going to call this Copilot Henson, okay? And just end there for now. I'm just going to create a blank Copilot, right? And it still has all the smarts that are out there on the internet today, but I want to feed it with actions specific to my organization. I want to feed it with knowledge specific to my organization, okay? So I've built this blank Copilot, Copilot Henson, and then you see these tabs at the top of the screen. They're really, really intuitive once you know what you're looking at, okay? When I click on this knowledge tab, for example, this is what allows me to add my own organization's data into Copilot. And again, it's not adding it for the entire world to use. It's just adding it for your tenant, for your organization, okay? And look at how many amazing data sources we already have available to us. You can upload files, boring. Public websites, slightly less boring. You can connect to any Dataverse database. We are having a lot of fun with that. And all the files that you have in SharePoint. And up until recently, that was the extent of what this was capable of. But now in preview, look at all these amazing data sources I can connect this to in addition to the ones listed above, right? I can connect to what it calls enterprise websites, secure websites, ServiceNow, Oracle, Azure, SQL, you name it. And if you don't see an item on this list that you want to connect to, custom connector. Using the same technology as Power Automate, which is where I started this conversation, I can now connect to everything that's leveraged inside of Power Automate. When I'm over here and you see these lists of squares, look familiar, don't they? Right? Because this same list, when I type in the word sign, show me all the things that I could interact with in the e-signature world. And then I come over here and I type it in here. I can pull up the same list, right? It's now leveraging that same engine. So I still have the option to build my own, or I can use a much more mature technology to bring in data. So at this point, I have to fill with knowledge in the system pretty much every data source I could possibly have available to me. And so then the question comes up, well, that's great, Dustin, but how do I secure the data from all of these sources? And the answer is something that I can talk about more later on in this presentation, but remember, you saw how easy it is for me to create multiple co-pilots. And so for some organizations, we're recommending that they just create different co-pilots depending on the role of the employees in that organization. So we saw the overview tab. Now we have learned how to add knowledge, and we've got a really exciting list of what we can add to, and we can expand it to our heart's content, building custom connectors pretty easily. The next thing is this concept of a topic, okay? And the idea with a topic is I might say to my co-pilot, hey, I want to generate an NDA and send it to a new client, okay? That's great, but of course there's follow-up questions if I was going to do something like that, right? You can't just say that and he goes, got it. It has to ask you, I'm happy to help with that. What's the client's name? What's their address? Are they a commercial client or a nonprofit? You know, there are things that it's going to ask that are going to change what it generates for you. And so this topics tab lets me get that process down. You could put one of these on your public facing website. Hey, I have a question about an order I placed. Great. What's your order number? If you don't know it, just tell me your phone number, right? And you can teach it how to pull all the data that the system needs and then bring those into variables to perform whatever actions or steps we need available to us. So a topic is a way of saying if the client asks about this, these are the pieces of information I need you to grab. Okay, so we pulled all of our information in that we have available to us. We've got these topics, and also to be clear, when I'm asking these topics, I can pull from other systems, either via Power Automate or by building my own actions, or even by doing HTTP calls for the developers that are in here and connecting to your systems directly. So somebody gives me a customer number, I can hit an API directly or using Power Automate and say, yes, I found you. Great to see you again, Steve, and then continue the conversation going from there. I can pull information from other systems or send notes. Hey, we've got a customer asking about something behind the scenes, right? Knowledge, topics, and then lastly, I can create an action. And doesn't this screen look familiar? This is Power Automate again. I can run a Power Automate flow. I can use all of the things that Power Automate has available to us to teach my Copilot. When I say generate and sign an NDA for e-signature, what I mean by that in my organization is to create a document based on this Word template and then put it in SharePoint over here. And then the e-signature tool that we use here at Acme Corp or Incite Automation or Henson Group or wherever is Adobe Sign. So use Adobe Sign, right? I can build a Power Automate flow that does that. And so between these first 3 tabs, I have everything I knew to build a really comprehensive AI quickly that can work on a whole range of topics. I can ingest all the data in my systems. I can get whatever additional information I need to fulfill the request, and I can build custom actions to actually make the system not just summarize and read text back for me and write sentences for me, but actually have it do things in the organizations with the systems that you already have by connecting it using technologies that are all well-worn roads, right? Oftentimes for clients that we've been working with them with Power Automate for quite some time. And so we're just leveraging what we already built using these copilots to bring it all together. And then lastly, I'm going to skip over the analytics tab for a second. There's channels. You're going to love this tab. Check this out. Okay, I've built my Copilot application. Where do I want it to show up? Look at the options I have available to me. Now, I chose Teams at the beginning, and when you do that, it does some security stuff, so these aren't available, but all of these are available if I changed my authentication settings. Telephony, I can have this work over a phone call. I can have it work in Teams. I can give you some JavaScript to embed in a website. I can have it work with Slack or Twilio, right? And I can embed this in Dynamics 365, Salesforce, ServiceNow, et cetera, et cetera. We've had a huge uptick in clients in customer service centers, where up until last year, we were bringing in data for their organization and giving them every phone call, every email, every meeting, everything they touch with that company at their fingertips inside of Dynamics 365, right? But then what happens? Can I please put you on hold for 30 seconds or a minute while I review your account, right? They had to go read all that information. But with this, we're pulling in, this system directly inside of these tools, and we're summarizing that customer's deal. This person always calls when their shipments are more than a day late. Just tell them that it's on the way, send the tracking number again, and they'll calm down. Like, it can look through all the emails, all the data in our database, all the information we have about the person, and give that customer service agent a summarization like they would be building in their head by reading everything instantly. So that give me 60 seconds to review your account, goes away. And then they can chat back. Thanks for this, Copilot Henson. Could you please craft an email using your packages on the way template and send it out to him? And it'll say no problem. And then it'll run a Power Automate flow that will send emails with all of the information the way you like it, fill out any additional information you have, and we're off to the races. So you can embed these in tons of different applications out of the box. And I think that's what's most striking is, even for this price tag, Microsoft has prioritized not just Microsoft tools, but the most popular third-party platforms and the ability to customize this with your own actions and your own custom data sources from day one. So at $200 per 25,000 messages, I always walk around all day, every day. This is therapy for me. This meeting we're having right now, going like, why is no one talking about Copilot Studio? This should be the star of the show, not what they're embedding in Office, right? That was so much talking at you guys for like 20 minutes straight. Chris, how am I doing so far? Come back and point me in a direction.
This has been really great. I like everything that you've talked about. We've actually built a couple of copilots for ourselves, more on the traditional side, but we're going to convert these into more of the Copilot Studio ones. I like how Microsoft has really enabled customers to easily deploy some of these copilots. And if you're watching, you've seen how easy it is to jump in, create a copilot from scratch with just a few clicks of a button.
Yeah, it's really, really incredible. A couple of stories for you guys. One of our clients is an organization that takes things off of big ships and puts them onto trailers and then ships them throughout the country. And what we learned from that experience is that when the ship gets back in cell phone range, when it's coming into the harbor, they'll send a message to this company, an email, and they'll say, hey, we got 400 pallets coming in, and we need them offloaded, and we need them in New Jersey by Thursday, and it's got to be in cold storage. What's my quote? How much will it cost? Can you do it? Right? And the company came to me and they said, could you use Copilot Studio to intercept that email, which you normally do with Power Automate, and then connect to our ERP system, figure out what it would cost, and then send them a message back with the customer service agent's approval before it goes out. And I said, yeah, I could build that, but why? Why not just have me build a online form that they can fill out? And they all shook their heads. They said, no. And I said, why not? That would be better. We don't need AI for this. And they said, because Dustin, these guys, when they get in cell phone range, they write that email and they BCC all 8 of our competitors. And they send out one email to 9 different companies in one shot. And whoever comes back with the cheapest price, the fastest, is where they steer their ship and go. And I said, got it. So that makes sense. I agree this is a good fit for AI. So we built them this system to do what I just described. And what they learned was they could charge more because every other company was getting back to them in 2, 3, 4, 5 hours later. And they were getting back to them in 60 seconds. Right? And well, this price is good enough. Let's head left over to Acme Corp, and get it done there. So not only were they saving money on their the speed and the number of people they needed in their support center, but they were actually raising prices because they were able to get answers so much faster and better than their competition. And this is the tool that we use to do it. It's a bad example right now because I'm redoing my summary systems, but this is what I meant by those summarizations. It's very possible, yeah, of course I don't have enough in this sample record, to embed these copilots directly inside of the tools that you use and have it read from all of these sources, give it the context of where it is, and then have it give the customer service agent something on the side of the screen that will help. I just got to fix this. I've been redoing my demo environment. And then, of course, there's an analytics tab that shows you what are people asking, how does it go? It's all Power BI-based reporting. Normally, we build this out further than what this tab just shows. To me, this analytics tab is the least baked one out of everything that we've talked about. But the rest of these, hopefully this gives you a good overview of like, oh, I really can build my own version of Copilot for my organization today, you know? And so we encourage you guys to look into it, start building it out. Chris, what else should I talk about?
Why
Somebody
don't you
stop
talk
me.
about, I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot here, but maybe how can we take data that sits in Microsoft Fabric and integrate it with a Copilot Studio?
So one, they've got a connector from Fabric coming, right? You can see that it's coming soon, right out of the box. But even though that's not here yet, you're not the first to ask about this. And as long as I have this
All
custom
right.
connector, I can
Uh,
still get to it, right? And
okay.
so for some clients, we've been doing a replication of the Fabric data into a SQL database and then using this connector, right? Others, we've been doing it with a custom connector. And then lastly, of course, we can do it with Fabric proper once that actually comes out. But I will say that the more data you feed this, the less responsive it can be. I'm interested to see when this Fabric connector comes out, how it's going to deal with that much data. We got a question in the chat. Is Copilot Studio segmented by areas or teams within a company? It's basically you build these and you can build them in an environment, to be clear. So for those of you that are familiar with Power Platform development, yes, Copilots take place in an environment, and they're getting to the point now where they can actually show up in a solution so that you can add them to a dev and a test and a prod. It is a fun tease to click these. I'm very curious of what Copilot and SharePoint and Copilot and Business Central and Finance will look like. But other than that, no, like it's basically just in the environment and that's it from there. The security is underwhelming at this point. You can see I can export these and import these, but I don't get a ton of capabilities of who's allowed to see what. You almost have to set it at the environment level, which is a shame. I've been told that there's a lot more coming in the future down this road, but it's not there yet. And so it's just enough for this to be useful now. But I wish it had controls more similar to Power BI. There you
Yeah.
go. While I'm on this topic, I'm going to take a slight detour just because I think this is amazing. We talked about Power Automate. We talked about Copilot Studio, of course, which is why we're all here. But I have got to show you, this came out like a week and a half ago. In Power Apps, which you use to build applications, for a while they've been saying, hey, you can describe a table and the system will design it. But just recently, they've added the ability to essentially do my job, which is to take business requirements and turn that into a valid data model, right? That's a tough thing to do. And I have been joking here at Incite Automation that until this can do that, we're all safe. Well, now I don't feel so safe anymore. So if I were to say, I want a system to keep track of orders. Each hot dog stand can have many orders, and each hot dog stand is in a territory. And I hit enter to that. It will actually attempt to not just generate my data, like a table in a database, but now all the tables I need in my database. And it will come up with how to connect them. And I know this is a little bit off topic, but these things do together. And look at that.
Wow.
Territories have hot dog stands have orders, right? And it has come up with my database structure. This is a brand new screen that didn't exist. And now it's, would you like to do next? I can keep having this conversation and having it create the database that I'm trying to build here. It's really, really wild. And see what fields did it make in territory, in orders, and ask the system to create some more. Look at that. I put quantity, order ID, order date. If I had done an even better description, I would have even gotten a much better result. And so, yeah, Chris, my days are numbered.
Oh, I don't think so. Because let's face it, even as good as AI is today, there's still lots of problems and lots of things for humans to go figure out. So
Yeah.
I think we're all safe.
And then for those who haven't seen this piece of the system before, when I hit save and I've made my database, it then will attempt to create the front end of my application. So let's see how many steps I can keep going before I change Chris's mind and get him to admit, like, yeah, Dustin, you might need to put an open for work on LinkedIn at this rate. I'm not too terribly concerned, but it's interesting to see how far this has come in the past year. It was very easy just a year ago for me to completely stump this with a very normal generic user request. And today, it's going toe to toe with my first week employees. You know what I mean? Not my tenured employees, but it's about at the same level as my week one folks, which is to say it might have even passed my interview process if I had tried to put it through its paces.
Well, there you
Um,
go. You,
some
you should
other
actually
use,
try that just to see how well it does in your interview. That might
yeah,
be.
I should try that. Actually have one coming up later today. Another example of how we've used this. There's a really, really large charity in the area where I am, and they have about 600 people author a document, okay, of all the good this big global charity has done in the world. And hundreds and hundreds of hands working for weeks on this document for all the good they do in the world, and they put footnotes in the document. And meanwhile, the document with all these hands, they're moving which sections go where, and where do we want to talk about this, and where do we want to talk about that. And often the footnotes are a footnote. They get forgotten about as part of that process. And so at the very end of writing the document, they then have 3 sleepless days and nights of going through the document. Territories, hot dog stands, and orders. Boom, I got an application. Um, they spend 3 sleepless days and nights going through this big 600-page document, like 600 hands in them, of do all of the footnotes jive. It's another way that we've used Copilot Studio is saying, hey, look at this document. Go out to each of these public-facing websites and check to make sure that what's being highlighted as a footnote jives with what's on that actual page, and then give me a report back where it doesn't match,
Wow.
right? And that took that process down from 3 days down to 5 minutes, you know what I mean? And gave them more time to polish their document. And what's great is it was a write once, and they're going to use it every year moving forward. I think it's fantastic. Another example, a shared client between you and us, Chris, the big book publisher, and
Yep.
they had a 38-step process to onboard new employees. Okay. And it was built using a .NET application, a web-based custom application. And if you forgot your passport, you'd say, sorry, you're stuck on step 3, bring it back tomorrow and we can continue the onboarding process. The 38 steps, it didn't matter what order you did them in. You just needed to do all 38, but their system was built as a wizard in one very rigid way. Okay. And when we changed it over to Copilot Studio, we made each and every one of those 38 steps a topic to be covered, right? And the system would sassily come in and go, all right, first thing I need you to do is watch these training videos. And then the training video system would send Copilot Studio an alert when they had successfully completed the videos. The person would come back. Saw you watched all those videos. I know they were boring, but really appreciate you getting through that. By the way, do you have any questions for me as we go through this process? And the system had all of the files about their policies and procedures. What's the dress code? What should I expect my first day? Who do I report to? All those sorts of questions it could answer, you know? And then it would go, next, I need you to go over here and do this action. I got a couple questions for you. Did you bring your passport today? Don't worry about it. I'm going to put an item in your calendar to remind you to bring it tomorrow, but please be sure to bring it tomorrow because I need you to upload a photo of it over to here. And it would direct them through all the 38 steps. People had a much more enjoyable experience getting through the process. And they had a much just better system in general. It's much more flexible, much more easy to change, really changed the perception of becoming a new employee at this big book publisher. So it's great for systems that not everything has to happen in a series of steps like that. I
That
see a
sounds
question.
really fantastic. I would love to just experience that as an employee. Hey, you need
It's really
this,
fun.
you need that.
So I got a question. What data sources are your most and least favorite when connecting in Copilot Studio? In my experience, I've found some to be better than others. Yeah, it's the easiest ones are the out of the box ones. But the problem with some of the out of the box ones are that they're so out of the box, you don't really get control over them. SharePoint and OneDrive work pretty easy. You point it at a bunch of documents and it slurps up the documents and it does some pretty amazing things. When you have it reading loose content, not like relational database data, but like PDFs and Word documents, it does some really wonderful things where it doesn't just pull up the best document, it crafts a response between multiple documents. We've seen so many cases with our customer service clients where they had a robust knowledge base in some system somewhere. And what they found to their delight was that this system would give an answer that pulled and cited multiple knowledge base articles, right? When it was coming it up. So, loose data always works really well. The more rigid the database structure, like a Dataverse database or an Oracle or a SQL database, those can take some finagling to get working well, in my experience, because the system doesn't immediately understand what's a ID field that should just stay behind the scenes and what data is really important. In Power BI, we've always had facilities to be able to say those sorts of things, bring up those kinds of requests. For example, here's something that we did for an aquarium several years ago. And it's not the prettiest report, but I can type into this Power BI report, show a map of donors. And it will create something on the fly. Or I can say, show me average donation amount by month. And it will create that on the fly. The beauty of this is we can teach Power BI, never show this field on the screen. Show this field a lot, it's money. So when it's doing its AI-like capabilities, it knows. I'm hoping that just as much as Power Automate has rubbed off on Copilot Studio, I'm crossing my fingers hoping that Power BI, some of its best features of security filtering and knowing what data to show and which fields not to keep behind the scenes, start permeating this product as well. Chris, you're up again. I need to sip my Pepsi.
All right. In what we've experienced with Copilot Studio, some of the limited things that we've done with it internally have resulted in, I think, some pretty good engagement from our employees. We have our HR manual that sits out there that you can ask it all kinds of questions about different aspects of our HR policies, and it does a really fantastic job with what we've got set up for that. It frees up some people's time, and I think it's a great use case. It's a single document. It's about 40 pages long, but we set it up, and anybody that wants to ask a question about HR policies, if it doesn't know the answer to, we forward that question on to our
Deja eso,
HR.
no me hagas regar eso. ¿Pero qué son esas pastas?
You got it.
Very nice. Any other questions before we let Dustin take a pause and I'll take over for a little bit? Anything for Dustin?
I'm not going anywhere. You can stop me later if you need.
All right, very good. Well, I am going to present now, and what I'm going to talk about is a little bit of the self-contained Copilot that Microsoft is selling today. This is the Copilot 365, and we've got a great program around helping people make that experience better for themselves and more secure. What I want to talk about, a little bit about the Henson Group. We'll start with that. So my cloud with us. If you don't know anything about the Henson Group, we are one of the largest managed service and CSP providers in the Microsoft ecosystem in North America. We do all kinds of things for Microsoft. We've got the technical expertise and relations with people like Dustin to help our clients do more with the Microsoft ecosystem. We're a certified Microsoft partner, and we have a great support organization that helps our both managed service clients and our CSP clients ensure that their workloads stay up and running in Azure. We're a global company. We've been an Azure Expert MSP. We're a top 5 managed services partner for Microsoft. We have become the funding experts. That's another Copilot we've developed for ourselves internally as a funding Copilot that Bobby's team uses quite a bit, and our sales team uses. Hey, I have this scenario. What kind of funding can I get from Microsoft? And it works really well. We're really pleased with that outcome. And we really can help any industry across the board. We've got kind of concentrations of customers in transportation, retail, manufacturing, and financial services. But we've got, large and small customers doing all kinds of great things in Microsoft. This is a list of all of our services. So if any of these are of interest to you, please reach out and let us know. And we're happy to help you out with any of these. So I want to talk about 2 different aspects and 2 programs that we have going for our customers today. One is what we're calling generative AI in 30 days. And this is where we basically build out a more rigorous custom generative AI application. So Dustin kind of showed you the Copilot Studio self-service aspect. What we do with our generative AI in 30 days is really more customization, more than just some simple data sources. We take a myriad of data sources, merge them into a semantic index that allows our customers to kind of query that with GPT. And we start off with kind of a small proof of concept, smaller data sets that establish kind of here is what the potential is with your data using AI to query your data. And it's really a great way to get started as an organization with AI in 30 days. So it's a 3-phase project. We start off with a design workshop where we really understand what are the business needs driving the adoption of AI, and there should always be a business need for this. I've actually talked to some customers and asked them, after they describe this really cool AI thing they want to do, all right, so what's the business driver really driving this, and how are we going to get ROI off of this? And they go, pause, we'll come back to you on that, because they haven't really thought about that. When we get into deploying the actual services in Azure, this does take a little bit of time, and you do have to know what you're doing to get it set up correctly. And then we go into the actual development and working with the models and your data. So the overall outcome is really to have the start of a much larger AI ecosystem in your environment. Then we have what we call our Copilot takeoff. So this is taking the Microsoft 365 Copilot that's embedded now in Word and Excel and PowerPoint, and offers a little icon on your screen if you have Windows 11 or 10. But it's taking the data that is exposed to that Copilot and ensuring it's got the right security set around it, the right permissions, and you understand who has access to what. Because if there's one thing, and we've learned this as an organization, if you have Copilot, you have access to a treasure trove of documents in your organization, some of which some people may not want you to see. And so what we do is we've got some tools that we analyze your SharePoint permissions, your OneDrive permissions, email permissions to ensure that everything is set up and has the right permissions according to your business needs.
Chris, I will tell you from experience that that very first square that you have on the data preparation one is vital to organizations. When I first turned this on, one of my staff members, and again, it was hooked up to, I didn't realize how much data I had hooked it up to in SharePoint when I hooked it up. It asked, that one of my staff members asked it, what does the average Incite automation employee make? And it had access to all of their employment records, and it told them, because it knew. So it's a really important one. Sorry.
No, and that's a great example. And that's the reason why we do this engagement, is because we have to help customers understand that they can be exposed like that. We did an engagement for a large professional services engineering company out of Houston. And one of the findings that we had was someone had turned on share with everyone on about 300 OneDrives. No one knew they had access to that, but because of Copilot, it would have uncovered anything sitting in those OneDrives. That included CEOs, OneDrive, CTOs, all of the sales executives. All of those things were available, and they were like, "Oh my God, how did this happen?" I couldn't explain it. I just had to report, here it is, and oh, by the way, here's how we're going to fix this for you. So we're able to help strip that from allow all permission out of those OneDrives and lock things down. We're getting ready to do a deep purview engagement with them, where we're going to turn on some automated rules around specific content types in documents so that they get permissions applied automatically. So part of what we'll do in Copilot Takeoff is make sure that all of the search engines that support Copilot are set up correctly. There are new connectors that we can help you set up for Copilot 365, including things like accessing your internal websites, other websites that you use often. You can set up connectors for that. Copilot will actually pull those results into what it gives back to your employees. And then one of the things, one of the big benefits out of this engagement is the training. We've developed a really nice curriculum around personas and how different personas, say like a salesperson or a project manager or a frontline employee, can leverage Copilot for their specific roles. So we've got things like prompt engineering and some canned prompts that are really good for those employee personas to take advantage of and use when they interact with Copilot 365. And then we offer an ongoing managed service. If you don't want to manage any of this, we're happy to take on any of that management for you. And then I want to just give a little shout out to our professional services team. We moved into a model of trying to make it easy to transact with the Henson Group. So we've got, all of our professional services really start with outcome-based pricing, if you will. So we do things that are very repeatable, and then we have variable costs associated with those. And so we bring those into a simple, easy to understand pricing model. So all of the services that we talked about earlier and showed on the screen are things that we can do, and we do them under this model as well. That's what I would like to have talked about today. Does anybody have any questions for me about Copilot 365? Anything that Dustin's talked about with Copilot Studio?
If you stump me, I'll send you a sticker.
All right. Well, I will really want to thank everybody for your time today. We will be putting this recording out on YouTube. So check out the Henson YouTube channel for some of the clips that we'll pull and post to our social media. Again, thanks everybody. Y'all have a great rest of your day. And Dustin,
thank you, everyone.
So much for the presentation.